I think what most people don't realize is this wasn't set the autopilot and set the throttle and stand back and watch the gauges. At every minute along the way, Tyson was adjusting the throttle, every second to make sure that we were going as fast as possible while not flipping the boat. And I was making sure that as we were squaring up to each wave, we weren't launching off at an angle that might roll us. And after launching off one of those large swells, the hatch ram that holds our engine hatch down, the actuator actually broke where it connected to the stringer, which isn't a big problem, except that on our next wave, the hatch rose up, the actuator rose up, and as it came back down directly through the port engine positive battery cable and grounded that out immediately to the engine block, which caused an electrical fire and melted a significant portion of our electrical system, including both starting batteries and one of our house batteries. That was kind of a unique challenge that we had to overcome before we were able to continue on with our world record attempt. And unfortunately, it was within sight of the start lines. Tyson had to bypass a melted battery switch, and so he wired direct past it. So we had to essentially fix those wires directly together, bypassing the switch, while I repaired the completely melted through starter cable. And then we actually had to use a set of jumper cables that we had in our damage control kit to jump from the only battery we had remaining, which was a house battery, direct to the port and starboard starters while we were turning the key to get each engine going again.
What were the lengths to which you guys had to push yourself physically and mentally in order to break this record?
Yeah, that's a good question. We had to push ourselves about as hard as we possibly could, especially since we lost 40 minutes off the start line. When we were in 6 to 8 foot seas in the Gulf Stream with some occasional 10s, it can be pretty physically demanding, both physically and mentally, to make sure that you're not going to, one mistake and you can flip the boat, especially at nighttime. That can take its toll hour after hour. So the boat is a 37-foot center console. It's made by Statement Marine in Tampa, Florida, and one of the unique aspects of the actual hull is that it's the only boat in the world that has a air ride suspension system on it. And so the deck is actually attached to the hull with 8 airbags and 8 shock absorbers and an onboard compressor. And it has about 4 inches of travel. So when the hull hits a large wave, instead of that pounding jolt that you're used to going to your spine, it actually mitigates that impact.
You mentioned a couple other major sponsors, the propulsion and also the electronics.
Yeah, so the propulsion was provided by Mercury Marine. We had twin 350 horsepower V8 twin turbocharged TDI diesel engines, and these are stern drive engines, which were really one of the largest keys to our success because they provided a tremendous amount of reliability, performance, and most importantly, efficiency. The way we had the boat set up at about 36 miles an hour, we were getting 2.25 miles a gallon.
The electronics package, what was the setup there?
Yep, and so we had an integrated SIMRAD NSE NSS electronics package. So and it provided all of the electronics we needed, including broadband radar. We had streaming satellite weather that showed up right on our moving map, and we also had AIS, which isn't usually included on most center consoles, but it was a great safety feature to have for us, especially during the nighttime portion of the run, where we could be assured that the large commercial vessels that wouldn't be expecting a little guy 500 miles offshore at night, we could be assured that they could see us.
your first boat that you personally owned and, ran?
Yeah, so when I was still in college, I bought my first boat, which was a 22-foot center console Mako. It was 1978, and it had twin 70-horsepower Johnsons on it. And believe it or not, 12 years later, I still have that same boat. I've repowered it and done a lot of work to it, but I'll probably always have that. It's just a great riding utility boat, and I don't think it'll ever die. The fiberglass is about 2 inches thick on that thing. I was stationed on a 270-foot ship in Portsmouth, Virginia, and we would deploy on that ship to the Caribbean between Colombia and Mexico for 2 months at a time. And so after we would get down in that area, then we would chase drug runner after drug runner. And, I have a couple favorites. Certainly my first interdiction was memorable in my mind. We were able to stop about $120 million load of pure cocaine from coming into the country. Now, typically the drug runners, when you started chasing them and you got alongside them, they had a standard kit. They had a portable sat phone, portable GPS, rocket launcher, AK-47, and some small arms, and they would throw all that overboard once we got along up to them, because if we caught them with drugs and weapons, then their jail time would be about double, and they would typically throw their sat phone and GPS overboard so we couldn't trace back to where they came from.